Om Namo Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayanti Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevayam Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, entitled Transcendental Knowledge, text 32 onwards. So Krishna is speaking about the sacrifice, and last verse was, O best of the Kuru dynasty, without sacrifice one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then of the next? So sacrifice has to be done. Evam bahuvida yagya vitata brahmano ke karma jnana viddhi tan sarvan evam gyatva vimokshase. All these different types of sacrifice are approved by the Vedas, and all of them are born of different types of work. Knowing them as such, you will become liberated. So different types of sacrifice, as discussed above, are mentioned in the Vedas to suit the different types of worker. Because men are so deeply absorbed in the bodily concept, these sacrifices are so arranged that one can work either with the body, with the mind, or with the intelligence. But all of them are recommended for ultimately bringing about liberation from the body. This is confirmed by the Lord herewith by his own mouth, that you will become liberated if you perform sacrifice. These sacrifices which are approved by the Vedas, not that we make up our own sacrifice. And also many times, which is to a certain extent, it is true that we have our destiny. Yes, we do have, based on our previous so many lives of karma and desires. But once we have the human life, yes, we cannot change point A and point B, but we can change what we do going from point A to point B. So whatever is going to happen in our life, it's going to happen. But what do we do while that is happening? That is up to us. That is why human life is important. It's not that like we are like robots, we cannot change anything. We can change our thought process, we can change our association, we can change our works. We can change that. Life-wise, whether we will be successful in job, business, career or not, studies or not, that's our destiny. But bhakti, first of all, it is spiritual, it doesn't come under destiny. And how much we do, it's up to us. So these sacrifice, that's why it is said, sacrifice. Otherwise, if everything was destined, even our work, why would Krishna say, do this and don't do this? Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharnavada. Means there is an option. There is independence that you can do it, or we all can do it. That's what Krishna is saying. But people who are maybe lazy or have who don't want to engage in devotion, so oh, Bhagwan ki kripa hogi to aa jayenge. For them, I used to say that in classes, when you preach, you find so many people with different kinds of excuses. So Bhagwan ki kripa nahi thi, isliye nahi aaye, mandir nahi aaye, satsang mein nahi aaye. And I would say, you go to a job or business, do you get up in the morning and say, Bhagwan ki kripa hogi to aaj jaunga, nahi to nahi jaunga? Nobody says that. Do the kids say, Bhagwan ki kripa hogi to school jaunga? Mommy will give her kripa right away. Give her a full slap. Nobody says that. And if ladies say, oh, Bhagwan ki kripa hogi to khana banega, nahi to nahi banega. No, they'll be fighting. But why it only comes to temple and spiritual practices? We find all these excuses. Going to a movie or a restaurant for eating, nobody says, Bhagwan ki kripa hogi to jaunga. No. So same thing here. It's all up to us. What do we want to do? And Krishna has clearly said, you do the sacrifices approved by the Vedas, different types of work, different types of sacrifice, but you will become liberated if you perform this. Shreyan dravyam yadyagya gyan yagya parantapa sarvam karma khilam partha jnane parisamapyate. O chastiser of the enemy, the sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than the mere sacrifice of material possessions. After all, O son of Pritha, all sacrifices of work culminate in transcendental knowledge. So the purpose of all sacrifices is to arrive at the status of complete knowledge, then to gain release from material miseries, and ultimately to engage in loving transcendental service to the Supreme Lord, Krishna consciousness. So that is the purpose of sacrifice. Nonetheless, there is a mystery about all these different activities of sacrifice, and one should know this mystery. Sacrifices sometimes take different forms according to the particular faith of the performer. When one's faith reaches the stage of transcendental knowledge, the performer of sacrifices should be considered more advanced than those who simply sacrifice material possessions without such knowledge. For without attainment of knowledge, sacrifices remain on the material platform and bestow no spiritual benefit. See, again, there is so much of independence given here. Krishna does not say, do this sacrifice only, or you will go to hell. No. One can perform sacrifices of material possessions, but without knowledge, it will not give the spiritual benefit. So many people do sacrifices of material possessions. Go do this dan, charity here, charity there. But without attainment of knowledge, sacrifice remains on the material platform and bestow no spiritual benefit. And this is the whole purpose. Krishna has given such a wonderful knowledge in terms of Bhagavad Gita. Learn the truth. Real knowledge culminates in Krishna consciousness, the highest stage of transcendental knowledge. Without the elevation of knowledge, sacrifices are simply material activities. When, however, they are elevated to the level of transcendental knowledge, all such activities enter into the spiritual platform. Depending on differences in consciousness, sacrificial activities are sometimes called karma kanda and sometimes jnana kanda, knowledge in the pursuit of truth. It is better when the end is knowledge. So that's what Krishna Prabhupada is saying, depending on differences in consciousness. So that is where the whole difference is. And then our activities will change. And some will say, I'm doing karma kanda, that is sacrifice. Yes, it is sacrifice, but it is material. It's not spiritual. It is good, not doing any sacrifice, not doing anything, it is good. But it's not the best. It's just slowly, gradually a person develops his consciousness, gets purified, and then he comes to the right knowledge and the right type of sacrifice. Now, how to understand what to do and what not to do? Tadviddhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshyanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. Very, very important words. Prabhupada quoted it many times. So just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. So approaching a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, not challengingly, and render service unto him. If he is pleased, or when he is pleased, he or she, that could be different. When he is pleased, he can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. So the spiritual master, bona fide spiritual master, should be the one who has seen the truth. Not just anybody and everybody becomes a spiritual master. And then how do we approach? Inquire submissively, render service, and then ask questions. The path of spiritual realization is undoubtedly difficult. The Lord therefore advises us to approach a bona fide spiritual master in the line of disciplic succession from the Lord himself. No one can be a bona fide spiritual master without following this principle of disciplic succession. So, a very bold statement, Prabhupada. No one can be a bona fide spiritual master. Not that somebody says, oh, I sat in the cave and I got this knowledge, realized knowledge, or I made up my own mantra, or this or that. Not a bona fide spiritual master. Because ultimately the knowledge has to come from the Lord himself. And from the Lord through the chain of disciplic succession. The Lord is the original spiritual master. Krishna doesn't need gyan from everybody. And a person in the disciplic succession can convey the message of the Lord as it is to his disciple. No one can be spiritually realized by manufacturing his own process, as is the fashion of the foolish pretenders. So this is what Kali Yuga is like that. So many so-called gurus are there, processes are there, paths are there, yuva. And people will really throng to those ashrams, so-called ashrams or places. Then, oh, my Guruji this and my Guruji that. Nobody even wants to know, is it the right Guru or not? It just like engineering. We went to engineering college to study engineering. We didn't go to any rickshawala to tell us, teach me engineering. He can teach something, but the process or curriculum that has been established by the engineers, but for the gradual development of a student from first semester to the 8th semester, then he learns engineering, then he practices under some professional engineer, then he becomes an engineer. Same thing about medical profession. Same thing about any law degree or commerce or anything. So why not, for spiritual knowledge, we go to a proper spiritual master? Why we just go to anybody or everybody, thinking, oh, they can teach, that can teach. The Bhagavatam says, Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavad pranitam. The path of religion is directly enunciated by the Lord. Therefore, mental speculation or dry arguments cannot help lead one to the right path. Nor by the independent study of the books of knowledge can one progress in spiritual life. Nor by independent study of books of knowledge. And that also has to be done under the guidance of a spiritual master. One has to approach a bona fide spiritual master to receive the knowledge. Now one can say, well, we are studying Prabhupada's books independently. Well, Prabhupada has given his commentaries on Bhagavad Gita. So if we try to approach Bhagavad Gita without the commentary of Prabhupada or some bona fide spiritual master, then we cannot understand Bhagavad Gita on our own without the commentaries. We just cannot. So one has to approach a bona fide spiritual master to receive the knowledge. And such a spiritual master should be accepted in full surrender, and one should serve the spiritual master like a menial servant without false prestige. Because if the false prestige is there, ahankar or pride that I know better than my guru, or I am better, I'm more austere, in every way I'm better, then we will not even learn anything. Just like in our class, in just technical class also, if we approach a teacher with some pride, or I know better than you do, what are we going to learn? We cannot learn. Satisfaction of the self-realized spiritual master is a secret of advancement in spiritual life. In fact, every morning we sing, Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasad. O spiritual master, if you are pleased, the Supreme Lord is pleased. Inquiries and submission constitute the proper combination for spiritual understanding. Unless there is submission and service, inquiries from the learned spiritual master will not be effective. One must be able to pass the test of the spiritual master, and when he sees the genuine desire of the disciple, he automatically blesses the disciple with genuine spiritual understanding. And until and unless that, his disciple will not get the understanding. In this verse, both blind following and absurd inquiries are condemned. So both blind following, no blind following, approach him submissively, render service, and ask questions. Inquiries, submissive inquiries, serious inquiries, and also at the same time absurd inquiries. People ask absurd questions many times. That is condemned. Not only should one hear submissively from the spiritual master, but one must also get a clear understanding from him in submission and service and inquiries. Bona fide spiritual master is by nature very kind towards the disciple. Therefore, when the student is submissive and is always ready to render service, the reciprocation of knowledge and inquiries becomes perfect. And just like how Parikshit Maharaj approached Shukdev Goswami, how humbly he sat, he was a king of the whole world. He gave up everything, sat in front of Shukdev Goswami and asked very submissively. And Shukdev Goswami, we read through Bhagavatam, he tested Parikshit Maharaj time to time, whether he is listening or whether his understanding is proper. And that is when the knowledge was perfectly given and he realized that knowledge. And what happens when one gets the perfect knowledge? Yad gyatva na punarmoham evam yasyasi pandavam yena bhutani asheshani drakshasi atmanyato mayi. Having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion. For by this knowledge you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme, or in other words, that they are mine. So this is the effect of proper knowledge, that you will never fall again into such illusion. The result of receiving knowledge from a self-realized soul, or one who knows things as they are, is learning that all living beings are parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. all living beings. The sense of an existence separate from Krishna is called Maya. Ma means not, Ya means this. So whatever we see in our with our material eyes, it's all Maya, illusion, because we don't see it in connection with Krishna. Something that we have nothing to do with Krishna, and that Krishna is only a great historical personality, and that the absolute truth is the impersonal Brahman. And the absolute is the impersonal Brahman, not Krishna. But that's not true. Factually, as it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, this impersonal Brahman is the personal effulgence of Krishna. So that later on Krishna explains. But in Bhagavatam, we have read so many places. Impersonal Brahm Jyoti is an effulgence of Krishna's body, Kanti, Krishna's Kanti. Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of everything. In the Brahma Samhita, it is clearly stated that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes. Sarva Karana. Even the millions of incarnations are only his different expansions. Similarly, the living entities are also expansions of Krishna. The Mayavadi philosophers wrongly think that Krishna loses his own separate existence in his many expansions. So Mayavadi philosophers, what they say is, if we take a piece of paper and just tear it up in small pieces, and so when it is torn or changed into small pieces, the original paper is gone. And when we put them all together, all the pieces together, then it becomes one, and then Krishna is there, or God is there. But the Krishna is not the same as paper. Because what they say is Krishna has expanded himself in innumerable living entities. So original figure of Krishna, original form of Krishna is gone. We all are God. Once we realize we are God, we'll come back in our position in the body of God, and then God will be formed. But that's their misunderstanding. That's what they say, Prabhupada said. Mayavadi philosophers wrongly think that Krishna loses his own separate existence in his many expansions. No. But this is there's a difference in spiritual world and material world. Spiritual world, 1 minus 1 is 1. 1 plus 1 is also 1. Means all these expansions come out of Krishna, come out just for our understanding, otherwise they're all eternally existing. But still, Krishna remains as he is. There's never any lack in Krishna. When in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has explained, the soul can never be divided, never be cut into pieces, never be burned by fire, cannot do anything to the soul. When soul cannot be cut into pieces, how can the Supreme Soul, which is Krishna, which is the source of all the souls, how can he be cut into pieces? So this part Mayavadis don't understand. This thought is material in nature. We have experienced in the material world that a thing, when fragmentally distributed, loses its own original identity. But the Mayavadi philosophers fail to understand that. Absolute means that 1 plus 1 is equal to 1, and that 1 minus 1 is also equal to 1. This is a case in the absolute world. For want of sufficient knowledge in the absolute science, we are now covered with illusion, and therefore we think that we are separate from Krishna. Although we are separated parts of Krishna, but we are nevertheless not different from him. The bodily difference of the living entities is Maya, or not actual fact. We are all meant to satisfy Krishna. By Maya alone, Arjun thought that the temporary bodily relationship with the kinsman was more important than his eternal spiritual relationship with Krishna. The whole teaching of Gita is targeted towards this end, which is that a living being, as Krishna's eternal servitor, cannot be separated from Krishna, and his sense of being an identity apart from Krishna is called Maya. If I say I'm this and I'm that, I'm man, I'm from India and I'm engineer, and this is what Maya is. My only identity is I'm a servant of Krishna. Because I'm in the material world, I have a body, so I do different activities. That is different. But the consciousness should be I'm a servant of Krishna. And then Krishna has given different ways. We can always see him. I'm the taste of water, I'm the light of sun and moon, and I'm this and I'm that. We can always see Krishna. We can always perceive of Krishna. But that requires training, consciousness, knowledge. That is what is missing. The living entities, as separate parts and parcels of the Supreme, have a purpose to fulfill. Having forgotten that purpose, since time immemorial, they are situated in different bodies as men, animals, demigods, etc. Such bodily differences arise from forgetfulness of the transcendental service of the Lord. So such bodily differences arise from forgetfulness of the transcendental service of the Lord, or our relationship with the Lord. Because we have forgotten that, we are not engaged in that. Means if we are engaged in the service of the Lord, if we are really engaged, then those differences should not come in the picture. Because those differences are there means we are not engaged. So if we are engaged, then the differences should not be there. Means if we are still differentiating on the basis of body, we only have a long way to go, that's all. So such bodily differences arise from forgetfulness of the transcendental service of the Lord. But when one is engaged in transcendental service through Krishna consciousness, one becomes at once liberated from this illusion. One can acquire such pure knowledge only from the bona fide spiritual master, and thereby avoid the delusion that the living entity is equal to Krishna. Perfect knowledge is that the Supreme Soul, Krishna, is the supreme shelter for all living entities. And giving up such shelter, the living entities are deluded by the material energy, imagining themselves to have a separate identity. Thus, under different standards of material identity, they become forgetful of Krishna. When, however, such deluded living entities become situated in Krishna consciousness, it is to be understood that they are on the path of liberation. Muktir hitva nitha rupam sarupena vyavasthiti. Liberation means to be situated in one's constitutional position as an eternal servitor of Krishna or Krishna consciousness. So that is liberation. So, but we are engaged, but we are not out of this bodily concept of life. So it will take time, that's all. That's a neophyte devotee. We read about Kanishta Bhakta, Madhya Bhakta, Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyam Adhikari, Uttam Adhikari. So we are just Kanishta Adhikari. We are trying. But it's the process is only this: engage in devotion service, and service slowly will get purified. Api chetsi papebhya sarvebhya papakritama sarvam jnana plavayaneva vrijinam santarishyasi. Even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of miseries, even if you're the most sinful of all sinners. So proper understanding of one's constitutional position in relationship to Krishna is so nice that it can at once lift one from the struggle for existence which goes on in the ocean of nations. This material world is sometimes regarded as an ocean of nations, means ignorance, and sometimes as a blazing forest. So never considered as the place for enjoyment. In the ocean, however expert a swimmer one may be, the struggle for existence is very severe. If someone comes forward and lifts a struggling swimmer from the ocean, he is a greater savior. So this is called Bhav Sagar, the material world. It's like a sagar, and as Prabhupada says, even if somebody is an expert swimmer, he cannot cross over the ocean. So just cross over even this bhavsagar, somebody has to come and lift us up. And otherwise we are in ignorance, in darkness, ignorance, darkness, same thing. And blazing forest, we are in the middle of forest fire. And in ignorance, struggling, suffering, trying to somehow survive. Because we think we have this body. If this body is gone, then I'm not. We just work so hard to survive this body. But this is not the survival. We're going to lose the body anyway one day. So what's a big deal? Even if we live in a big mansion or live in a torn-up hut, we wear big branded clothes, or just, well, now I can't even say torn-up clothes because that's a fashion to wear torn-up clothes. Or we all are going to leave this body. This body is not going to survive forever. It will be there forever. So real survival is not the survival of the fittest in the material world and how I can somehow make it to the top. I don't know what is considered the top of the money pyramid or position pyramid. That's not the survival. The real survival is we understand, we get this knowledge, transcendental knowledge. I'm not this body, I'm a spirit soul, I'm a servant of Krishna. And to engage in the service of Krishna. And when we come to this knowledge, we'll see everybody as spirit souls, part and parcels of Krishna. And deal with them properly. Of course, if the consciousness is different as Madhyam Adhikari, he avoids the offensive people or envious people. But he still sees everybody as spirit souls. And Guru is the one who can come forward. And then Sansara Davanala Lila Loka, we sing every morning. This Sansara is Davanal, forest fire, blazing like a forest fire. And Guru is the one who comes with this kripa, with this mercy, karuna, and he puts down this fire, or he saves us, savior. Perfect knowledge received from the Supreme Personality of God is a path of liberation. The boat of Krishna consciousness is very simple, but at the same time, the most sublime. The boat, because it's Bhavsagar, so we need the boat. So sometimes they said, okay, if I take the boat and cross over the Bhavsagar, how is the boat going to come back? to save others. No, actually the Bhavsagar, the ocean, becomes how big? The water contained in the mark made by calf's hoof print. Not even cow, calf's hoof print. Calf hoof print is what? Maybe 1.5 inches in diameter. So Bhavsagar becomes so small when we take up this boat of Krishna consciousness. And that's what I say, it's very simple, but at the same time, most sublime. Most sublime means we don't know how it works, but it's very, very powerful. This is the boat of Krishna consciousness. And this is how we're going to be saved. And Guru, or Krishna, his own mercy, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, all the Acharyas, Prabhupada, their mercy. And we studied that the Guru Karanadhara, when Guru becomes the expert boatsman, and the instructions of Vedas are the favorable winds that take the soul, take a devotee to the point of to the spiritual world. So this knowledge is very, very important. That's what the chapter is. Of course, the chapter is a transcendental knowledge. But this knowledge, where from we have to receive, how we have to receive, and what happens when we receive. It's amazing. It's amazing results. But knowledge, not just theoretical knowledge, it's a realized knowledge. We have to work on it. Then we get the realization. Then we get the when we get to be saved by the spiritual master or by Krishna himself. I guess I can stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments.
Nice class, Prabhuji. Good revisions.
Thank you, sir.
Prabhuji,
Yeah.
thank you for helping us become liberated.
Well,
We are far from
Prabhupada
it.
is doing that. I'm just helping.
We are far from
serving
it.
Prabhupada.
But thank you for being our Guru.
I'm nobody, Mata. Prabhupada is our Guru. Okay, so you all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Ram.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna,
Thanks a
Prabhuji.
lot.